How I Went from I Work Here Officer to I Don't Work Here Lady, by user Everend Muddy Grimes. Way back in the halcyon days of flannel and combat boots, more commonly known as the early 90s, I had just gotten a job at a certain blue vest store. I wasn't a model employee. Asked to help by someone who thought I was clocked out, by user Esoterico Sealet. 2 for because also posted in r/tales from the customer. I was at Walgreens earlier today, and a woman stopped me and asked me if I work here. The uniform is a navy polo with red embroidery. I am wearing a grey cable knit sweater and was carrying my winter coat. Puzzled, I replied that no, I do not work here. She said, "Oh. I just saw you coming from the direction of that employee's only door with your coat and assumed you worked here and were leaving for the day." To which I replied, "No, but as someone who worked retail for years, I would suggest that you please not ask employees who are clearly not on the clock, like if they have their coat. The shifts can be hard and long, and people deserve their time off, and not to work without being paid because they're off the clock." She looked shocked, then gave a huge sniff. An employee who'd overheard came out of the aisle and offered to help her. I continued to wait at the counter until he came back, and as he checked me out he said I'm his new favorite customer. I think we made each other's day, lol. People like that other customer can be so exhausting and frustrating. Just why? Your time or needs are not more valuable than someone else's. I'm slowly losing hope in humanity, by user Thatanicarkid11_24. There is a travel agency outside of where I work and I've been in and out thinking about taking a cruise late October on one of the Royal Caribbean ships. While I was on my lunch break I decided to pop by and chat with my agent to start setting up the trip, mind that I'm in full dress pants and suit. I sit at the desk and we start chatting. While I'm there this lady sits about 4 foot from the doorway into this office. She coughs a couple of times then scoffs, "You know, employee meetings are for after work." I turn my head to the door, then look back at the agent. She stands and walks to the door and asks if there's a problem. This lady looks about 50 to 60s and around the size of the average vending machine. I stand, and say I could come back later. The woman proceeds, "Oh no, I want to turn in a complaint, mister." I'm confused now and cough out a what? This agent is now in full shock. In a full southern twang, "You heard me, don't act like y'all don't work together. I caught y'all both red-handed." I tried not laughing at her heavy accent. "Ma'am, I legit don't work here." With the agent slowly backing into her office, she growled, "She isn't getting away with ignoring me." I couldn't help but let out a slight laugh. "Ma'am, the fact you think she's ignoring you is fascinating." She got the most pissed I've ever seen a woman get since my mama had her wooden spoon. She screeched for corporate's number and my agent had to give her the actual number. But 2 major problems arise. Number 1, she asked for my name. Number 2, she thought I would give her my actual name. I gave her the name of a random NASCAR I had been thinking about, Mike Harmon. That somehow worked like a champ. Your jobs are as good as gone. Maybe that meeting wasn't so important after all. She stormed out and I swear that's the fastest she's walked in her life. I gave my agent $50 for all of the trouble. After all, you don't get attacked by a walking vending machine that often. Sorry this was so detailed. I don't want it sounding too rushed nor fake. Smiley face. My mother's issues as a vendor, by user Millard4373. My mother used to be a marketing vendor, the sort who would go to stores and do product resetting, rearranging and restocking shelf displays. She would constantly get bothered by patrons, "Excuse me, where is XYZ product, can you show me where this is, or even give/get me this." That got really old, really fast. She finally got sick of this and, on one of her bright red vendor polo shirts, she used big, white, iron-on vinyl letters to spell out, under the word vendor, "Do I look like I'd actually work here?" LOL, she was ordered to not wear that again. Totally worth it. The Case of the Care Home Fax, by user GiveMeYuna. Here we go. I think was somewhere between the 90s and barely past 2000 when businesses were using mostly fax instead of email to send documents. There was even some family homes that had a fax machine for one reason or another. As you've probably guesses, our household had a fax machine. To this day, I don't really understand why we had it because it was hardly used. Maybe it was a fashion thing, I don't know. Not far from us were 2 NHS-run places. Or should I say 3? Imagine a triangle where one corner was our home. A 10-minute walk away is an NHS hospital. Then a 10-minute walk from the hospital and our home is a GP surgery with a care home immediately across the road. As in, step out of the GP surgery and cross the road to get to the care home. As the hospital isn't relevant in this and only gives an idea of the distances, we can ignore the hospital. The fax was in the same room as the family computer, so someone was usually in the same room. Usually my dad or myself, and infrequently someone else in the family. This time, I was sat at the computer working on some document or other when the fax machine came to life. I thought that it must have been something for Dad, so I left it to work away. However, after 5 minutes of printing I thought something was wrong. Just as I got up to inspect the situation, the printing ended. So I glanced at the fax printout and it quickly became obvious that this was sent to the wrong place. At the top of the first page of something like 20 pages were 2 addresses. The send to and sent from addresses. The sent from being the GP surgery and the send to being the care home across the road from them. In the addresses for both places also included telephone numbers and fax numbers. A quick look at the numbers and I could see that they were nothing like our number. Imagine our number being 01234 446688 and their numbers were something like 01234 551100 and 01234 552277. Apart from the 01234, which was the area code, the rest of the numbers were so far apart you would have thought a random number generator had a fun day. This was obviously not a case of single digits being mistaken like the last number being a 5 instead of a 6. I barely looked any further on the first page when I realized these were medical documents that the GP surgery tried sending to the care home. As these were important, I picked up the phone and called the number on the front page for the care home. Their receptionist answered and I explained that we somehow got their fax from the GP surgery. The receptionist was apologetic and was puzzled with how this happened. I asked if they'd like me to drop by with the fax documents as I live so close, but the receptionist instead asked if we had a paper shredder. I said that we do and she told me to just shred them. I asked if she was certain and she said yes. We said our goodbyes and ended the call. So I eventually shredded them. I say eventually because just as I was about to reach for the shredder a thought occurred to me and I picked up the phone again. I called the GP surgery. After a brief explanation to the receptionist, I was put through to someone in the back office. I explained the situation again. The lady was utterly puzzled. She was the one that faxed the documents and there was no way that she could have confused the care home number with our home number. She said that she'd make a note to their tech department about it. When I asked if she'd like me to return the documents to her, she also asked me to just shred them. Well, that's what I did. As these were important documents and needed shredding quickly, I dug out the shredder and started setting up in the living room. When my mum asked me why I've dug out the shredder, I told her and she was surprised, but didn't argue. Because she enjoyed using the shredder, she decided to do the job for me. And that's the end of it. You would have thought this was a random once-off thing, but no, it wasn't. The following month my dad was sat at the computer with me watching over his shoulder when the fax machine came to life. We glanced at it before returning to the computer while waiting for the fax to finish. After a few minutes we just looked at it, wondering what's happening. Then it finished up. As I was already standing, I checked to see what came through and sure enough it was documents from the GP surgery to the care home. As my dad was informed about what happened last time, I handed them off to him. He did what I did and phoned the care home and then the GP surgery about the situation. Both places were yet again puzzled about the situation and turned down the suggestion that we walk down the road to drop them off. So Mum got her fun with the shredder again. And if you think that was the last time, then you're wrong. This happened 4 more times over the next 5 months. We have no idea if this problem would have continued if we had kept the fax machine. Dad disconnected it as he eventually lost use for it. None of us knew why we kept getting those faxes. The care home and GP surgery kept telling us to shred them and referring the problem to their tech departments. All I can think of is that the GP surgery's machine would get a busy tone from the care home and instead of deciding to wait and retry, it went through some sort of number generator until it settled on the first fax machine within our area code that was free. However, that seems rather far-fetched. So that's it. That was the case of the care home fax.